Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble.
That sounded more like Liu Kang doing his bicycle kick.
Yeah, it kind of did.
Sounded like a Power Rangers putty.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey, that's retro, right?
I have no existence now.
Welcome to episode 12.
Garfunkel and Simon. Welcome to Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah,
Garfunkel and Simon Belmont.
Yeah, welcome to the 240p Club, episode 12. Simon Belmont and Garfunkel Alucard edition. That was a bad joke. I don't know.
Not really bad.
No, anyway, in the U.S., it is Thanksgiving Eve. Instead of staying at a bar watching people drink during amateur drinking hour, the pros are sitting at home with a couple brews here, except for John, and enjoying life. Enjoying being alive at a time when retro gaming is ridiculously popular. So, we are... If you're listening to us anywhere else, in the world, we do apologize if you don't really get the Thanksgiving thing, 'cause it's strictly U.S. holiday. I know they have Canadian Thanksgiving, and they have different days around the world where, you're just thankful for stuff. So please bear with us. This entire podcast is going to be dedicated to being thankful around the world for retro games and what we're thankful about in retro gaming. With us, I'm sorry, I'm just checking the recording.
Yeah.
With us, as usual.
Hi, I'm Nikki.
And over here.
This is Ray.
Ray is here. Actually, he's over there.
Yes, way over here, away from everyone else.
Yeah, we have Rayman in the house. And?
John.
Just Sean.
Yep.
Just John.
Yeah.
John Cena!
I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that. This is not John Cena. He's not Cornholio. He's John Falloon.
Falloon!
He rode in here on a hot air balloon.
Oh. We are thankful for puns and the fact that people put up with our bad puns.
So you're saying he's full of hot air?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
A hothead.
Oh, man.
So, like we said, bad puns.
Yes. So we are thankful for a whole lot of things in the retro gaming scene. The first thing we are extremely thankful for is the fact that the retro scene is so huge. Mm-hmm. Like, I run our Twitter account, and I've noticed so many people, I've just followed, as many retro things as I could. So many people are just dedicated day in, day out to retro gaming and designing retro-styled games, the platformer game, the 2D scroller, side-scrollers. It's refreshing to see that, games haven't gone the way of the Call of Duty crowd, which, definitely one of the more popular games out there. But it's not for everyone. I'm not a huge fan of it because I can't really dedicate the time to learn the controls and to get into it. And I don't play that much multiplayer because, again, I don't have time. So it's nice to see the retro gaming community is still out there and still refreshingly keeping the scene alive, so to speak.
I'm just not good at first-person shooters, and it gives me migraines.
Yeah, I was a fan of the old ones. I love Doom. Hexen's one of my favorite of all time.
Duke Nukem 64.
Duke Nukem. Actually, Duke Nukem 3D for the computer was awesome as well.
And they put that on PlayStation as well?
Yeah, they eventually... I think they ported something over to PlayStation on... obviously Duke Nukem 64. But they were trying to port a Duke Nukem 4 or another Duke Nukem sequel for ages. Finally came out 2011 maybe, 2012, something like that, and it turned out to be terrible because it was in developmental hell for so long. So we're not thankful for that, but we are thankful for Duke Nukem 3D, which took all the best lines from They Live and any Bruce Campbell line and turned it into a pretty bitchin' game.
I'm pretty thankful for the speedrunning community because it covers... I've been involved in it myself. I wouldn't say it covers every game ever made, but all the well-known stuff like Mario, Mega Man, DuckTales, Battletoads, which I've been involved in. You can see pretty much any game, though not every game, like beaten as fast as possible. I've linked numerous like marathons and stuff on our Facebook. It's really fun just watch these games just get decimated and glitched. Like people find all these like crazy glitches to just get to the ending as fast as possible, and it's really crazy. It's fun for me to watch, at least.
And it's cool to see people figure out stuff you didn't even know existed when you were playing this back in the day.
Of course. Like, I guess for an well-known example, Ocarina of Time.
There's the beat Mario 3 in set amount of minutes.
Oh yeah, I saw that. They glitched the level 7, World 7, level 1, and wound up beating the game that way, which I want to figure out how they figured this out. That, maybe just someone was just fucking around one day and it glitched and they're like, whoa, how'd I do that? And tried to recreate it. The only way I could see half this stuff being discovered.
It's really fascinating what a lot of these people can do with video games nowadays.
I know, especially games they've dedicated a lot of time to, like they play them over and over again, and like just, if you're that dedicated to your craft, just discovering this new stuff.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time. Somebody found this glitch that lets you, play a Deku stick as, your Ocarina or something, right after beating the Goma Queen or whoever, the first boss of the game. And somehow that lets you, glitch warp straight to, the second to last screen of the game where you're running out of Ganon's tower while it collapses. And you just basically warp straight to the final boss, and then you're fighting him as Child Link with the Master Sword and everything.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
It's been beaten in under 20 minutes, several times.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
So how? No, I'm not going to ask this question because there are some people who haven't beaten the game yet. So, never mind.
Okay.
Yeah. I was going to mention something, but
it's a Legend of Zelda game. You have to beat Ganon at the end.
No, that wasn't what I was talking about. I was talking about the ending scene. But there are some people who haven't beaten the game yet, so I'm feeling quite generous today.
Well, let's just put it this way. Most of the glitches on the ending will sometimes play as normal, even though you didn't discover all this stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's really weird. You could do it. I know.
I will put it this way. This is one example of that. Ocarina of Time, I mean.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. If you have a Game Genie and Final Fantasy VI, aka 3 for the Super Nintendo, if you wind up putting in a code to get the airship before you can even have the airship, you wind up going to the southern continent, which is the Empire, and talking to people about characters that haven't even been discovered yet, you'll see that they actually reserve some of those slots for Moogles that in an early scene in the game, the Moogles come to save you, those little cute little white things with the antenna and everything.
And of course, the second boss battle of the game, you can actually find Mog in one of the parties and completely unequip him and use those weapons on Edgar later.
Yeah, which is really nice. But no, if you...
And learn him a dance while you're at it. You can't get that till much later, I think.
Oh, yeah. No, one of the cool parts about that, though, is you wind up, in places you're not supposed to go to in the game, and they still have those Moogle placeholders in there. So it's really weird seeing, them talk about the general as one of the Moogles, and you're just like, ha, he's level 3, and they just used him, in the game. That's funny.
You don't even need a Game Genie to, break Final Fantasy VI, because if you remember... Realm's sketch ability was completely broken.
I have broken the game a couple times using that. Unfortunately, it was detrimental effects. I wound up freezing it inside Kefka's tower because she was confused and sketching, and it turned out glitching the entire game where it froze. I
ended up getting a beneficial effect and ending up with over 99 Illuminas, or Lightbringers as they're called now, but... Basically, I had at least 5 characters equipped with Illumina.
And you equip that, you equip a high-level character in that game with a Genji glove and offering and 2 Illuminas, and they will take out the boss in a matter of 5 minutes.
Not to mention you can also throw them if you're Shadow.
Yeah, which does ridiculous damage. And plus might cast a spell to boot. But I'm really thankful for that game. I'm thankful for all these people discovering all these random glitches and giving us something to do when we're bored here on a Wednesday night. Falloon, what are you thankful for?
Just the whole scene in general, like growing up with the whole retro scene as it is now.
Yeah.
When it was new, experiencing that when it first came out.
Yeah, we're older than some people that are into like the retro scene, which is really cool.
Oh, and the growing up with the arcade scene.
Yes.
Definitely.
I didn't play that many arcade games as a kid. I remember I played the Super NES version of Killer Instinct before the far superior arcade version, which you still can't really fucking find anywhere.
I used to... That was one of the highlights of summer vacation. You wound up at an arcade, you wound up putting quarters in like Ninja Turtles, then later on the Simpsons game, and all kinds of the other games they had. Like they have, obviously Skee Ball, that was a big one, but, you walk around the arcades and they had all these games, just attempted them. I remember the hype when Mortal Kombat came out. I remember when Street Fighter 2 came out, people went berserk for that. I played the Super Nintendo version before I played the arcade version, and the arcade version was just it was fun. I mean, that was it was a unique experience at the time, because the only other game I could think of that was like that at the time was Pit Fighter, and Pit Fighter was okay.
Wasn't the arcade version a little better than the...
Well, the arcade, that's the one I played, the arcade version, which was...
Ported it and it wasn't... Supposedly didn't get the best response.
The arcade version was okay, at best. The ports, I think the Genesis one is the only one that's semi-playable. Any other ports of this game turned out to be horrible, glitchy characters. It's because the way they use motion capture, it was primitive at the time, like the way they used it, and it didn't translate well to home systems. But yeah, I am definitely thankful for the arcade culture, and being able to go to an arcade when I was a kid or teenager and hang out there. It was experience a lot of kids can somewhat still relive. I mean, there are plenty of retro arcades out there, but there's also kids these days can relive it through multiplayer gaming on home. You basically hook up a headset, you talk to 10 to 12 people, you're playing at the same time. It's just you're not exactly seeing them, and you're not buying soggy fries and crap, fountain drinks. But
it was just something you really just had to be there to experience.
Yeah, exactly.
The arcade scene.
Well, now there are arcades coming back up. So
there are, but it's
more a retro thing.
Yeah,
people are doing it for nostalgia purposes instead of that was the place to be, when you were down the shore or down, on vacation or as you guys say in the UK, on holiday.
Mm-hmm. I had a deli around the corner from my elementary school, and we used to go there every day after school. It got to the point where the principal would follow us there and say, anyone who I catch being here would get detention. But I remember in that deli, it was at the front of the store, it was Street Fighter 2, and then on the left wall was Mortal Kombat 2. And I remember my principal caught me playing Mortal Kombat 2. I had somehow figured out the button combination to do Melina's fatality, and I remember picking her. I'm like, oh, it's a pretty girl in pink. Of course, I didn't realize just how horribly disfigured she was until much later, but I did one of her fatalities with the principal looming right over my left shoulder. Needless to say, I actually didn't get in trouble for it, but, I very well could have. But, where I lived, there was an influx of places where you could play Street Fighter 2, where you could play Mortal Kombat 2.
To reenact her playing the game, Beavis and Butthead, you're expelled!
Oh,
Hey,
I remember that episode.
Beavis and Butthead was a video game too, so that counts.
Yeah. The Genesis one was actually it required some brain power to solve. It was a lot of puzzle. It wasn't a puzzler game. It was an action. It wasn't even
beat 'em up.
Yeah, well, it was just an action game, but it was an action adventure.
Yeah.
You had to figure out certain things in order to what item is used where in order to find all the tickets to see the band Guar.
You had to
Wasn't there also a PC Beavis and Butthead game?
Yes, there was.
I think you had to figure out also
Virtual
what character
stupidity.
to play as in what situation, because I think Butthead was a little bit taller than Beavis.
But they also had different like weapons and everything. Like you equip them with different weapons. Like they had the dart gun, the frog bat, which is cool, and
Frog baseball!
yeah, really early Beavis and Butthead episode.
That was a nice little throwback, though, to the very first
Yeah.
Beavis and Butthead episode.
Yeah, no, that game, that is the ironic thing. Like, the Genesis version required a little brain power to actually figure out.
You like brain power to score.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm also thankful for the fact that we wound up with so many awesome titles when we were kids. Like, you know, I don't know about like some of our audience. When I was like a teenager, Nintendo was having their best year of all time. Like the Super Nintendo's coming out, Super Metroid, Donkey Kong Country, all these games I talked about like day in, day out, and the Super Nintendo was amazing, especially if you had like a membership to like Blockbuster or one of those other video stores, and you got to play these like but while they were coming out. You know, we didn't have a lot of money, so I wasn't able to buy most of these video games until much later, but I was very thankful I could take a short drive to the Blockbuster near me, rent some of these games, go home, play the hell out of them, and just enjoy life, especially during the weekend when you weren't in school.
I'm also thankful that Blockbuster never really put late fees on, because there were a few times when I forgot to return the games.
Well, there were ways around that, like if you snuck it into the box at a certain time,
Yeah.
you know, they wouldn't charge you.
Out of that box was a godsend.
Yes.
Because they never knew that I was really short. I mean, I'm still really short now, but I was like really short as a kid, and like I used to be able to duck underneath the windows where the employees wouldn't see me do it. So,
Nice.
like whoever rented, give me an example of a game. I don't know, Barbie Supermodel or something.
Yeah.
Just for shits and giggles, we're gonna say Barbie Supermodel. So I would go and rent that. I actually still have the cartridge to that game.
You know, we do have to do a Twitch playthrough of that.
Dude, I'll do it. I will do it.
You're playing it.
I'm playing it. Hell yes, I will play it.
I will sit back and we'll figure out a drinking game. We'll
Every time I
In return, you're gonna have to play through Earthworm Jim.
okay.
Oh,
Every
definitely
time I
playing through
hit
it,
someone
Jim.
with rollerblades, or every time some rollerblader like steps in front of my car and I hit them, take a shot.
You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna play through just us after a couple brews. You know, just us here. No video, nothing. See how this game is and try to develop a drinking game. And then we're all going to wind up on Twitch, except for Falloon. He doesn't drink, which is cool. I respect that decision 100%. But we're all going to wind up on Twitch. We're all going to have a couple shots laid out in front of us, and we're going to have a couple beers laid out. And we'll make the rules of this drinking game, and Nikki will play it, and every time something happens, we'll all have to drink. By the end of that, we will be so hammered, we will be actually attempting pilot wings immediately after, and watching Nikki try to land. Meanwhile, keep in mind, she's going to be drinking as well, so this is going to get really amusing.
Like, I used to be really good at pilot wings when I was a kid. Like, me and my dad played it all the time. Me and my dad and my brother used to play it all the time. We tried to get my mom to play too, but she, like, the only type of video game that she's ever played was like 2 seconds of Super Mario World, and she got hit by like one of those big bombs. Like, I was like, Mom, you wasted my last life. So I got game over. You know, she felt bad, and I told her I don't feel bad. I don't care. It's just a dumb game. It's fine.
My parents liked Duck Hunt, and then I got my Nintendo.
But like me and my dad, we played Pilot Wings, we played Goal, we played Top Gear, we played Legend of Zelda. In fact, because we both like Zelda so much, he used paper plates, and he made me a little shield and a little sword, and I used to stab him with it.
Nice.
It was so cute. And
That's why
I mean,
she's violent.
Yeah,
I think that's what started my violence.
See, that's another thing we're thankful for. We're thankful Nikki hasn't killed us all yet.
Well, who am I gonna live? I mean, I can't make friends after I kill you guys. Like, I'm not good at making friends. If I lose you guys, I don't have anything else.
And then she'll kill you too.
Yeah, probably.
No more Bono.
Wait, what did you say? No more?
Bono. You said you were going to kill you too.
No more what?
No more Bono, because he's gonna kill you too.
Oh! Oh my god, yo, don't put the air?
Yeah, we are.
Shit. Yo,
we're
Bono's
not.
gonna come after me.
We're not killing Bono.
Famous.
Fucking Bono's gonna come right
Well, I
after me.
can't speak for Nikki, but none of us in this room or otherwise are going to kill Bono.
We are not. We're not. I don't condone violence on anybody else but the person next to me.
No.
Oh, crap.
No.
That's the end of our podcast because I just killed Joe.
Yeah, thank you for not killing me yet.
Nah, I won't kill you.
I'm
Don't
very
worry.
thankful that I'm still alive to enjoy this Thanksgiving.
Something yet.
Unless we all fall into, the itis. We all get the itis after turkey. Gobble, gobble.
And that definitely will happen. We'll all be tired immediately after eating that.
You know, speaking of Thanksgiving and everything, you know how, like, the Thanksgiving parade always has those little floaties and stuff? The floaties are so cute. But when's the last time we've actually seen, like, a video game character?
Oh, we had Sonic the Hedgehog. That was famous in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
They blew up the balloon, and it wound up hitting something because it was windy and getting deflated.
No.
So the Sonic balloon went down like a Zeppelin.
Like Dr. Robotnik got.
Yeah, and Nintendo had a field day with this.
Is that a metaphoric sign for Sega's?
Yeah,
It
basically,
was,
they
yeah.
interpreted it as.
Yep.
Nintendo had a field day with that. It was hilarious. Like, Nintendo put that into their ads and everything, and the Play It Loud campaign they had back in 94, 95. I think it happened in 95.
I can definitely see with the retro scene coming back, maybe we'll get lucky and see like a Mega Man or a Mario float.
Yeah, it has to get certain. It has to reach a certain level of popularity.
Mm-hmm.
Over here in Philly, we almost had like a Mega Man based like fancy brigade during the Mummers Parade.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mummers' world famous New Year's Parade, New Year's Day. You could look it up on Google. If you really want to find more information on that.
It was the one that got last place. It wasn't that great.
They didn't try hard enough.
Yeah, they probably weren't from 2nd Street then.
Yeah. Now here's the funny part about the retro culture. Most of these are established franchises, everyone knows who Mario is, etc., etc. It takes like an event or a certain game or something to bring that back into the mainstream. This Thanksgiving we may possibly see a Mario parade thanks to the NES Classic, but I doubt it. I doubt it.
Like that.
It was at the closing ceremony of the Olympics, so I doubt we're not going to see it.
Well, it was also because Japan is hosting
its Olympics in 2020. So we definitely seen that Mario trailer, and we'll probably see Mario in 2020. So that'll probably be a world event where we'll see Mario again, and maybe Zelda or Link, I should say. Oh, apparently this year they're going to have a Pikachu.
Pikachu!
Yeah, that's our behind-the-scenes gal Mel found that online. So we might be seeing a Pikachu balloon.
Oh my god, I want to hug it. I love everything
And Nikki will
Pikachu.
instruct it to lightning bolt us all.
No,
I'm going to hug that Pikachu. He's going to be kind and gentle.
it's 30 feet and inflatable.
I'm tall.
Not that tall.
No, I'm not. I'm going to climb a ladder and I'm going to hug the Pikachu because I love everything Pikachu.
He's gonna ride the Pikachu.
Oh, come on!
No, I mean the float.
We don't follow.
We know.
Yeah,
We know.
yeah.
Anyway, what else are we thankful for? We're supposed to be thankful for a whole lot of things.
Well,
We're
just the
thankful we
retro
have.
community togetherness.
Yeah, that sense of togetherness. Yeah, I don't really see too many feuds in the retro community. You get the difference between emulation versus playing the real thing. Yeah, that always creates a debate. But for the most part, as far as I know, at least the retro community has been civil, and things haven't really broken out as some of the other gaming communities with flaming and everything. Although that was fun back in the MMORPG days. But
The chat rooms,
yeah, chat. And
as we used to call them,
the bulletin boards, the message boards.
the 7X Wars.
Oh yeah, Yeah, with that like 7,000 like responses or something.
Some of those, like 7X Wars, was kind of something that we did in my area with a couple people that I knew through. What was it? Half-Life, I think it was.
Oh, so it wound up being like
It was just people from my area and like other people.
I'm equating this to we used to have guilds for our MMORPGs, and we had clans for like Quake 2 and like first person shooters, and it would be the equivalent of talking smack on the board before like a big battle. Then you had a big tournament versus some other clan or some guild, and then afterwards, if you're victorious, you talk shit on like their opponents, depending on what kind of sore losers they were. It was a little different back in the day because, if you were a gracious loser, for the most part, you weren't flamed. And if you were just a sore loser making excuses, you were fair game. Like, we were just going after you.
My button jammed.
NBA Jam.
Screw you guys. You played on a T1 connection, and, you guys didn't lag like we did.
We played on Education Connection.
No.
We had an Ethernet cable.
Good old back in the day.
I had a 32-bit connection.
No, I am thankful for the 32-bit systems on the PlayStation. The Sega Saturn was a lost classic.
What about the 32X?
32X was a piece of crap. Plastic.
Well, I don't know if it was that bad. It's they didn't know what to do with it. I think that's more the issue.
It was... You know what? The technology was interesting, although Sega totally screwed that up by the fact that you had, if you got all the peripherals, like, you had your Genesis, then you had the Sega CD with that, which is understandable, Sega CD, but you had another power cord with that, and then you had the 32X, which had its own power cord, and then you had, you had to actually...
Their execution was bad.
Yeah, you had to actually figure out how to put this 32X into your Genesis.
And if you combined all three,
you got the Megazord.
You had like 4 games that had all they had was like a few more colors over the.
Yeah, I think the 32X version of Doom wasn't half bad, but it paled again in comparison to having a PC.
Yeah, they didn't know how to execute it. It actually had more power to it. They didn't know what to do with it. That's the problem.
You know what it is? They didn't really have the budget to do anything with it, too, because that came out to breathe new life into the Genesis, because for an entire year and a half, maybe, everyone was talking about the Saturn and the PlayStation. Well, less the PlayStation, more the Saturn at that point. So Sega's still trying to sell Genesis, and so they had to figure out a way to market the Genesis as still viable in 1995 before the Saturn came out. So their solution was the 32X, which had decent capabilities, but at the same time it was increasingly difficult to actually install into your Genesis, and it required its own power cord, and not to mention that once the Saturn came out, the 32X was pretty much useless. Everyone switched over to the Saturn.
Yeah, they rushed.
Yeah,
I remember playing a couple games on the Saturn.
Saturn was a good system. I actually had a buddy that bought a Saturn, but then wound up trading it in for a PlayStation 1 because that had better games at that point. And, Sony asserted its dominance pretty early in that scene.
I still have one.
I'm thankful for all the silly peripherals we've seen throughout the years. Like, we're not going to get into like the Zapper and the Super Scope because that's pretty much standard issue with every system. What I'm talking
Menacer.
The Menacer, yes, from the Genesis.
I had that.
I'm also talking about the oddball stuff like Rob for the NES,
Robbie the robot,
and the Power Glove, and all the like microphones and sort of speech recognition that a lot of these early consoles had.
There's something. Everyone talks about the Power Glove for Nintendo. Does anyone remember the U-Force?
A little.
The seat?
No, the U-Force was this thing. It looked like a game of Battleship, basically. Like, you open it up, but it was supposed to be where you put your hand. It had sensors and everything. You put your hand and you move your character using the hands.
I remember seeing them I don't think I've ever seen one, but I remember advertising here and there.
They wound up screwing it up so bad that it was advertised, it didn't sell well, it disappeared just as quickly, and we didn't really see stuff like that until the Nintendo Wii.
In fact, if anyone remembers like the Japanese NES, the Famicom, you would know that the original Famicom had a microphone built into the second controller. And this wasn't used that much. I know this awful game called Takeshi's Challenge in Japan used that you would like have to sing karaoke note or something, but aside from that, it wasn't used that much. Like Legend of Zelda, you would be able to yell into the microphone and kill all the Pole's voice on screen or something.
The little cat ear things, like that look like
the bunnies.
Yeah. The thing with peripherals like that is.
Speaking of which, we're gonna have to play Takeshi's Challenge sometime.
Yeah, definitely. I've never played that before, so definitely have to attempt that. A lot of these like peripherals were just good ideas, like too far ahead of their time in order to be viable.
Especially the microphones.
Yeah, exactly. Like nowadays, you have a Bluetooth microphone hooked up, and it hooks right up to your system using Bluetooth technology. And back in the day, I can't really imagine using a crappy Nintendo microphone while you're playing like a multiplayer game to scream into the microphone in order to do something.
And these peripherals, of course, are something that still continues in our modern day with like the Xbox Kinect and all that shit.
Yeah, well now they have the technology like available for it where you can sit in your room and basically have a gun peripheral, and man, that's your first-person shooter. Like, basically that's how you control it.
I only use the Kinect for exercise games.
Yeah, they had a peripheral in '95 called the Activator, which was this big hexagon thing you stood in. It's supposed to be for fighting games. Yeah, Genesis and Super Nintendo had one.
Was one second?
The Activator. It's supposed to be basically you do a karate kick and your character's supposed to do a karate kick, and you throw a punch, supposed to connect on that, and your character throws a punch.
So if I recall right, you have to look away from the screen and do certain moves because it's a hexagon?
Something like that, yeah. Which, it's more of a novelty than anything. You hook it up with a friend, your friend had one, they brought it over to your house, you hooked up two of these things, you're kung fu fighting, in whatever game you're playing. But after that, it's like, there's no point in really having this, because this isn't useful for a platformer. And, it was the same thing with the, going way back in the day, the power pad. Like, you basically, it's this exercise pad, you stand on it with bare feet, and you're supposed to play like track meet. You act like you're running in place and your character runs. Only there's a way to glitch it where you just hang on to something and you look like you're doing a double bass kick pedal for a drum, and the character just sprints like he's Usain Bolt.
They still had that, at least in the PS1, PS2 era, with the Dance Revolution controllers. Is that even a thing anymore?
I've seen one in an arcade, but it was an old machine.
They kind of moved forward from that and went to Guitar Hero controllers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's always markets for stuff like this. People imagine, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you had a good controller shaped like a guitar and you played along the songs?
They have Piano Hero now.
Piano Hero.
I believe people have beaten Dark Souls with the guitar controller.
Somehow I wouldn't put it past someone to figure that out.
I think it was a Legend of Zelda game, or it was some game with a DDR pad.
I've also seen someone do a version of Guitar Hero using just a keyboard, a computer keyboard, and you just hit the certain arrows in succession. Or same thing with Dance Revolution. It's they use a regular controller instead of the dance peripheral.
I was never good at DDR.
You don't learn how to play fake guitar that way.
No.
Well, that's why they made Rocksmith then.
Yeah. Well, Rocksmith was a technology. They had that for Nintendo, the Miracle Piano teaching system. Actually, I've seen it for Genesis as well. The Sega Genesis, aka the Mega Drive, seen a piano system where you hook it up and it teaches you how to play piano. Although it is pretty basic, and I could just imagine that game it was a Nintendo cart. It wasn't a game. I could just imagine it glitching while you're trying to learn, and all these random characters come up. You're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, I'm thankful that we no longer have to deal with the cartridge-based glitching, unless you're playing a retro system. Like, you know, you had to keep the alcohol and the cotton swabs handy in order to clean out your game in order to play them. And midway through, you know, you're playing, you're getting so far into this game, and
Oh yeah.
no.
And on cue shadows here.
Yeah, my cat.
I'm just happy thankful we don't have to blow into our cartridges anymore. 'Cause, oh my god, you know how dizzy that used to make me?
Yeah, especially had like a really, really dirty game and it just wouldn't work. It's just like you blowing it and throwing it into the system, not working, trying again.
Like the Atari porn games, dirty.
No, not that dirty. I mean, dirty as in physically sitting around in your closet collecting dust and, you know.
I think if we all didn't have like the kid mentality then, where we just kind of like.
I don't want to play this anymore.
We didn't know how to put our games back properly back in the day.
Hell, I spilled ice cream on a couple games, and it turned out to stay there for a while.
Yeah.
But that's just the card itself, not the inside the chips or anything. So they still worked. It was just really weird, like seeing, you know. I think I eventually cleaned them off when I moved, like so many years later.
I'm thankful for Q-tips and alcohol nowadays.
Yeah, cotton swabs and alcohol for Nintendo was a godsend. Mm-hmm. And finally, this Thanksgiving, I am thankful for you guys, our viewers, our listeners, and our interactors on social media. Without the retro scene supporting each other, there is no retro scene. You wouldn't be able to discover so many neat things with some of these old games that may rekindle your interest in playing them.
I'm thankful for you guys too.
Yeah, thankful for our wonderful listeners. Thankful for people giving us game suggestions, people like us inspiring people to play some of these games again. And most of all, we're thankful for the fact that these games exist in any time period. So from all of us at the 240p Club, we're just still going to have a few more beers and say cheers to you all. Thanks for listening to us today. If you want more information on the 240p Club, you want to go to our website, 240pclub.com. Also, we have facebook.com/240p Club, and we're also on twitch.tv under 240p Club.